Morning. Thank you all for being. Wow, that was kind of weak. I appreciate y'all being here. All right, thank you. It is a Friday. I keep you for a little while today, but I promise to get you out on time. But I really do appreciate you being here. I know you've got busy schedules, and it feels like that. Every time we turn around, we're doing more training. I completely understand that, but thank you for being here nonetheless. If you do have a cell phone or anything like that on you, if you don't mind putting on vibrate. Because we are recording just for my own purposes than anything else, so we can take a look at it at the end. But again, thanks for being here today. This LPD today is about utilizing the UMT in a clinical setting, and I'll give you a little bit of background on that. But the bottom line up front on this is, like it says here. Now, I'm not going to read through every slide because obviously we all can do that. But for continuity's sake, there are some things that I want to take a look at. But bottom line is, integration and understanding of pastoral care is vital to the success of the WTU mission. It's vital to success in any setting where we're caring for soldiers and families. Now, it has been my experience. You can read these objectives here. These are things that we're going to look at as we're going along. I will just leave those up there for a second. But it's been my experience that a lot of folks have some idea of what a chaplain does, or what a chaplain is, what a chaplain's supposed to do, what we bring to the fight, so to speak. But it's also been my experience that a lot of times it's there's some misconceptions out there, or there's a gap in understanding. All right? So I want to show you a quick video to kind of prove my point on this matter. My esteemed religious affairs specialist, which you'll learn today, they are not chaplain assistants any longer. They're religious affairs specialists. She went around and was asking folks, hey, what does a chaplain do? And I think the responses to our questions will speak for themselves.
In your words, what do chaplains do?
We actually have a chaplain here. No, actually, chaplains are really, really supportive of what we do. They take care of us. They take care of our soldiers, especially the ones that are remote, because you guys have pretty much saved quite a few for us. That's what chaplains do.
How much coffee is each civilian and soldier authorized?
Well, that's a good question, Specialist Silas, and I'm going to give you an answer. In Alpha Company, we go by how many letters are in your last name. So, Silas, you have 5 letters in your last name. That would be 5. But the catch is we times it by 2. So each soldier and civilian is authorized how many letters in their last name times 2. You are.
Mr. Pendleton, do you know what Army regulation governs chaplain corps activities?
That is not the Army regulation you're looking for.
The Army regulation I'm looking for, that is not.
You will ask someone else.
I will ask someone else.
You will forget everything you've seen here.
I will forget everything I've seen here.
Move along, chaplain. Move along.
What is this place?
All right. So I get that response on a regular basis. A lot of times, you come in, hey, chaplain, what are you here for? What are you doing in my office? All right. Not as much from you guys, maybe other places, especially from Parade Rest over here. I told him I was going to get them back. See there? There you go. Okay. All right. This is something I made up a few years ago when you may have remembered these on Facebook. These things were going around, or at least this kind of format. So I made one up. I was deployed at the time, and as you know, at least in that point in time, had very little to do. So I made this up. And you can kind of see by the pictures, so my top left there, what my friends think I do, right? And then and then I like, especially with, being down at Fort Campbell and all that type of thing at the time. But what my mom thinks I do, you see it says from the pulpit to the trenches. What society thinks I do. I particularly love that one, right? Yeah. All right. And I'm not Catholic. So what my boss thinks I do. There's a salt, sir, right there. All right. What I think I do, which I'm particularly fond of, running through fire and flames with a Bible in my hand. But then in the bottom right-hand corner, what I actually do. What are chaplains really here for? And we, at the end of the day, we are here to provide for the free exercise of religion. But the way that pans out most of the times is we meet people in a lot of times, their darkest places. That is what we're here for. We are here to meet people in their times of trial. We're here to meet people in their darkest places. I'd like to show you a quick video to give you some more insight on that. All right. That is actually part of a video, actually a documentary that has come out recently. Great documentary. It goes into each of those specific areas. It talks even more in depth about military chaplains, talks about hospital chaplaincy. It talks about this the NASCAR and sports chaplaincy, all these different types of things. And the chaplain that you saw in that picture is actually our newest chief of chaplains. Chaplain Hurley is a priest, has not been on the job very long as far as the chief of chaplains is concerned. But if you get the opportunity to look at it, you can Google it. It's a chaplain documentary, and you can be able to see that. So I asked earlier what, and I asked Darth Vader in there, what the chaplain, what regulation covers the chaplain court. Now, when I was playing this to start with, I know some folks, and you might have had the question in your mind, why is he playing music from the dark side, when you're asking about chaplains? Well, I was going to do the Jedi music, which would probably been more in line, but it just was nowhere near as cool. I like that music better. That's the only reason. But what is a chaplain? According to AR 165-1, first of all, we're religious ministry professionals. That's what most people are familiar with first and foremost, that we are in the job of providing religion, of guaranteeing the free exercise of religion for soldiers, civilians, and anybody who is a part of a unit. We're also endorsed by a religious body. As a chaplain, I am actually a Southern Baptist chaplain. All right. Now, what that means is that every chaplain in the Army is endorsed by a denominational body. A priest is endorsed by the Catholic Church. Southern Baptist chaplain, I am endorsed by the Southern Baptist denomination. Now, you ask, well, what does that mean? Well, basically what it means is this, and it's a good thing. The Army is not in the business of deciding who's qualified to be a chaplain. All right? Now, that's an amen, okay? They're not in the business of deciding that, all right? Our denominations are. And so our denominations will say, yes, this person has all the requirements necessary to be a chaplain. And I must maintain that endorsement. I'm accountable to my denomination. As you know, there have been issues that have come about, separation of church and state. How do chaplains handle certain situations that may be what the DOD says is okay, but maybe a chaplain's faith, might say different as an example? Well, every chaplain is bound by the left and right of our denominations. We are essentially on loan to the Army by our denominations. Okay? Second thing, we're seminary and CPE trained. A chaplain has to go through a seminary or the equivalent. My degree is a Master of Divinity in biblical languages and Christian education. It is a 96-hour master's degree. So it's a full, solid, no kidding, full-time 3-year degree once you've graduated, college and such. And then, of course, CPE trained, which is clinical pastoral education. Now, some chaplains will go through clinical pastoral education in the civilian world. Chaplain Sibley, as an example, went through CPE in the civilian world. All right, so when he came in, he had that with him. The Army now is allowing chaplains to go through clinical pastoral education as in Army advanced civil schooling. right? So when I was downrange, I got this email that said, hey, you've been selected for a CPE. Do you want it? Well, yeah, I want it. Okay? Because they're also allowing us to do advanced degrees beyond there, such as myself, where I'm working on my Doctor of Ministry. All right? So there's some carrots that go along with it, and it's not hard to understand. We all know, hey, the more certifications, more education that you can get while you're doing your job, the better, right? Okay? So know that there's a lot of that goes on, and we'll talk about in a minute what that means to be CPE trained. At least 2 years experience serving in a civilian church, mosque, temple, or synagogue. That's at least 2 full-time years serving in that setting. For myself, when I came in, I'd been a full-time pastor for 12 years. All right, so when I came in, I direct commissioned as a captain because I had 7+ years of full-time experience. All right, again, the Army, the military is not in the business of teaching chaplains how to be pastors. Okay, all right, that's all stuff we get on the outside. That's why most of us have gray hair by the time we come in. All right, that's why we're older, because all the education that we have, all the experience has to happen before we come into the Army. All right? Board eligible, board certified, clinical pastoral chaplains, clinical chaplains, in other words, chaplains in MedCom. And you say, well, give me an example of what those are. Well, obviously, MedCom, chaplains that are in combat support hospitals, chaplains that are in our military prisons, and I feel like I'm missing something somewhere. All have to be board eligible, board certified. Now that comes on the heels of the clinical pastoral education. So we're not just distributors of coffee and candy, all right? Okay? All right, that is something we do because it makes everybody feel good and it's a good thing, and we like for you to come by and see us, and not everybody comes by and sees us just for my, face. They want the coffee or something like that, so we do that. But make no mistake about it, all right? That is not our primary job. And like we were asking, I think Special Silas asked, Top over here, how much coffee is afforded to every soldier and civilian in the reg? Okay, I think we've gotten to that point. We think, well, yeah, it's in the reg. No, it's not. It's not anybody's reg. Okay, it's just something that happens. It's just something that we do. I am board eligible, meaning I am in the middle of my certification. I am in the middle of accumulating my 2,000 hours in a clinical environment, all right? I'm also in the middle of finishing up my Doctor of Ministry. So when I'm done with that stuff, then I will be board certified. And we know in MedCom, in the clinical environment, those certifications matter, do they not? Okay? They matter because it lets every one of us know, hey, here's the standard that person meets. And if you're going to send one of your people that you care about to me, you want to know, hey, what am I bringing to the table? Right? Okay. Accountability professional standards for pastoral care. The American Clinical Pastoral Education Association, ACPE, that's our board. All right? And they can strip that certification in a second. And, of course, we work as a team with a religious affairs specialist, ours being former chaplain assistant specialist Silas. All right? So she is now a religious affairs specialist. That's just a new thing that's changed in the reg. What do chaplains bring to the table? Well, we have basically 4 areas. We perform, provide, care, and advise. And you can see that here. The 2 that I really want to hit on for you and help you understand is this perform and provide. The care is pretty self-explanatory, and the advise is basically I am special staff to our battalion commander. Chaplains are special staff to the commander, meaning that we advise the commander on matters of religion, morale, and ethics. Okay? That is our job when it comes to the commanders, to make sure that our commander is up to speed on these things and knows what's going on. Now, perform or provide. Here's the thing. The perform part is this, meeting specific faith group needs, in other words, worship, sacraments, or counseling. Here's the thing. By this here, I am a Protestant chaplain, which means that I can perform Protestant services. Protestant worship services, right? Protestant style baptisms, Protestant whatever the case may be, all right? Now you say, well, what about everybody else? Because not everybody's a Protestant. You see, that's where the provide comes in. Not only is not everybody a Protestant, but, hey, what if you're not a Christian? It is my job as a chaplain, again, what I tell you, the free exercise of religion, right? Your Constitution guarantees that. So in these cases, if I cannot perform it, and who says if I can perform it or not? You remember? My denomination, exactly right, okay? Those guidelines, if I cannot perform it, then it is my job to facilitate it, to provide it, to find a chaplain, to find some way, shape, or form to make that happen, all right? I'll throw one out there as an example. As a Southern Baptist chaplain, I cannot perform same-sex marriages, as an example. Now, I can do what I'm going to call, marriage between a man and a woman. I can do that. That's part of my tradition. That's part of my guidelines denominations. But let's say we have someone who, a soldier and same-sex marriage, they want to get married, all right? It's my job as their chaplain to find somebody who can help them do that. And there are chaplains on this post whose their denominational backgrounds, their denominations will allow them to do that as part of their tradition. Does that make sense? And that goes across the board. That's where you're Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist, Wiccan, Jedi Knight, whatever the case is. All right? That's my job, is to help that soldier, that civilian, that family member exercise, have their free exercise of religion. Okay? The religious affairs specialist, and unfortunately, Specialist Salas, she'd love to be here, but if you pray for her because she's sick today. Not sure what's going on, but I told her, hey, do not bring that into this room and share it with the rest of us, okay? You got to hit the road, all right? Go home, all right? Perform or provide, basically the same type of thing. The religious affairs specialist serves as the enlisted subject matter expert, and in coordination with the chaplain, executes the commander's religious support operations and conducts soldier crisis management. Interesting thing about a chaplain assistant, see, I'm still doing it too, all right? Religious affairs specialist, it's too long. I like chaplain assistant better, too many words in there. Is they do what I'm just going to call it triage. Now, we're going to talk about that in just a few minutes when it comes to your lanes, but they do a lot of spiritual triage. Chaplain assistant will go around and talk and kind of get a lay of the land, a feel of the land, and they will kind of work through and say, hey, okay, she'll come back to me and say, hey, chaplain, here's such and such individual that, you might consider going to talk to, okay? They just don't look like that they're flying right today, or, something about their conversation. Now, they also provide, and of course, they're experts in religious support operations. They do a lot of admin. Bottom line is the chaplain assistant helps me accomplish the commander's mission for religious support. All right. Confidentiality. You've probably heard and probably wondered sometime, what is the deal with chaplain confidentiality? Here's the story. Chaplains have, by law, by the Supreme Court, we are mandated absolute confidential communication. So what does that mean? It basically means that there is absolutely nothing that a soldier or a civilian or anybody else could bring to me in a clearly confidential setting. You see the difference? Hold on to that. Clearly confidential setting that I'm going to release to anybody. Now, what's the first thing that comes to your mind when I say that? Threats. What else? Criminal activity. What else? All sorts of things. Suicide, all these types of things. Yeah, absolutely. Now, what did I tell you a minute ago? Absolute confidentiality. Whether I like it or not, whether you like it or not, even that is confidential. I do not own that information. That is where chaplains are different than everybody else in the military when it comes to confidentiality, because a lot of you all in here have confidentiality clauses, correct? But do they not have but in this case, right? Mandatory reporting types of things? We have no mandatory reporting. It is absolutely confidential. So it puts us in a position of saying, okay, well, if this is going on, then how do we handle it? And it is a case-by-case basis. Listen, I've had I say many, I've had a handful of soldiers as an example. I said, well, you know what? You're not leaving my office right now, right? All right, I'm not holding them captive or anything, but I have to continue. They say, hey, this is what's going on in my mind right now. I'm racing. This, my platoon sergeant said this to me, and I am getting ready to go off. Well, no, you're not going off right now because you're not leaving this office. Let's keep talking about this, okay? And so in those cases, what we always try to do is to encourage that individual to get the help they need. Now, at the end of the day, it is still that soldier's, it's still that civilian's choice. And you need to understand something. This is actually a good thing. As dangerous as it can sound, it's a good thing. Because people need the option of speaking their mind. Because I'm telling you, in those deepest and darkest of places, if they know for a fact that it's going to go beyond and go to somewhere else, they're probably not going to come with it. Does that make sense what I'm saying? All right? So that is a deal. Now, another thing that comes, well, I'll just say this here. Yes, it extends to specialist solace, our religious affairs specialist. What I was talking about is this privilege of non-disclosure is with the patient. In other words, that means that whatever you say to me, whatever conversation we're having, you own that information. I don't own it in any way, shape, or form. You'll never see me take notes on a conversation. Now, we're going to talk about that again in just a little bit, but you'll never see me take notes because I don't want somebody sitting there thinking, well, he's writing this, he's going to tell somebody about this, okay? That is an important thing. I'm going to tell you something. When a chaplain loses the absolute confidential trust of his unit or her unit, the chaplain may as well move on to something else. Okay? And that's just the bottom line. So we take this very, very seriously. Now, there are times when a soldier, a civilian, will release us from that privilege. A lot of times it's in writing, but I'm going to tell you, very, very, very few cases does that happen. Now, I do have times when I will ask somebody, hey, would you like me to kind of, stir that pot a little bit? Would you like me to check into that a little bit? Maybe kind of help you with this, help you with that? And I'll say, well, yeah, we can do that type of thing, all right? But the information is theirs. Now, notations. We don't do it here. I think you're going to see a time when, well, you are going to see a time when, because it's already happening, and as part of the point of this brief, is that chaplain care, spiritual care, is going to be much more integrated with behavioral health. Now, we already know, well, I'll get to that in a second. Let me get to this last one. Chaplain will give a barometer reading of the patient. So if there is let's say it's a company commander, let's say it's a battalion commander, there's a big difference. I can go to that person, and I do go to that person and say, you know what, here's kind of what I'm seeing. I'm not betraying confidentiality. I'm not giving specific information, all right? I'm just making sure that they know, hey, this person is doing good, or maybe they're not doing so good, and this type of thing. Every now and then you'll run into kind of a purist, that says, you know what, I can't even acknowledge that you were here type of thing, right? I mean, you may have seen that, may have not seen that. That's really not the case because that's not doesn't fall under that realm, all right? So there are some gray areas, but at the end of the day, the bottom line is that I need you to know that whether it's for yourself or for your soldiers, that we take their confidentiality in their conversation very, very, very serious, all right? Now, sharp. Here's one of those where it comes up, okay? Bottom line, chaplains and chaplain assistants do not report. Again, it's confidential. Here's what we do, and this is basically the same thing we do in all circumstances that are, things like this. At the victim's request, we will provide pastoral and spiritual support and explain the availability of victim advocacy services. We will encourage the victim to seek, again, hold on to that, encourage the victim to seek medical attention, to encourage them to inform law enforcement of the crime, and encourage them to seek assistance and counseling. With the victim's consent, like I was talking about earlier, the chaplain will refer the victim to qualified individuals or organizations. So that's really how we handle cases of confidentiality. We go above and beyond to try to encourage the best we can. Say, hey, you know what? You really need to think about reporting. You really need to think about getting some help. But at the end of the day, it's still that person's information to hold on to. All right, now, where do we fit? Where does the UMT fit? Well, I'm going to back up just a little bit and tell you kind of about what's coming down the pipe as far as working with chaplains and really what is the core of why I felt it necessary to get you all together. And for those of you who are more in the BH realms or in direct care providing, such as platoon sergeants and squad leaders and all that type, we're going to talk about some more types of things later on, maybe after Christmas and such. But here's what it boils down to. The Joint Commission has been doing studies on, well, let me back up on that. Everybody knows what comprehensive soldier fitness, right? Has 5 elements. Can anybody recite the 5? What are the 5? Okay. What are the other 4? Right. Right. Okay. All right. And so we understand that holistic care for an individual, an individual that is standing on both feet, that is truly healthy, is being taken care of and has a degree of health in all those areas. Correct? That's what it means, okay? Now, one of those areas is spirituality. Now, the Army and the Department of Defense basically defines this with a little s. I'm going to use a little s, okay? I'm going to call it pneumatology, right? This idea that all of us, well, it's not an idea, the fact that all of us have a spiritual element about us. Now, for me, I define it with a big S, spirituality. For me, as a Christian chaplain, it's a Holy Spirit, okay? The Holy Spirit. That's my spirituality. That's what guides me, all right? For other people, it may mean a spirituality that's more along the lines of, hey, I meditate in the woods or something, or I do this or I do that. But people have that element to us. We all have that element about us. We're not just flesh and bones, okay? There's more to us than that. And when that is damaged, or when that sense of us is out of whack, it affects everything else, does it not? People heal faster, right? Physically, they heal faster when they have a sense of understanding, don't they? When they have a sense of purpose, when they can kind of place themselves in the big cosmic picture somehow or another. All right, what is all this suffering coming from? Why do I have it? Am I being punished by God? Is it just random? What's my place in life? Do I have a purpose? I don't feel like I have a purpose. You see what I'm getting at? All right, this type of stuff affects all of us, and it certainly affects those that we're caring for. All right, so the Department of Defense, they've already said, hey, spirituality is part of it. Not only is it a part of it, it is something that we expect to be addressed. All right, so it is actually an accessible part of us. Everybody in here who takes GAT already does it. You already do it. It already asks you those questions. Okay, every now and then you'll hear guidance along the lines of, hey, stay away from spirituality. All right. That's not what the regulations say. And if you don't believe me, I can quote them to you. Okay? The regulations clearly say that in the proper lanes, again, proper lane, right here, okay, we need to address it, all right, and make sure that it's taken care of. Now, everybody's familiar with this diagram. What is this one here? All right, everybody's familiar with this, right? Triad of leadership, triad of care, all right? So then my question to you is, for you, and somebody answer this, in your mind, where would the UMT, where would a chaplain, where would what the UMT brings to the table fit into this? Any ideas? How about there? How about right in here? Maybe that part of the triangle? Maybe, sort of, maybe. How about there? In that part of it? Maybe over here with the nurse case manager? Maybe. Definitely the squad leader, right? Platoon sergeant, right? They all need chaplains, right? Definitely over there, okay? That's exactly right. Look here. Everywhere. Point of this slide is this. We are part of the big picture. We fit into this everywhere, okay? Because spirituality, when it comes to caring for people, is reality. It's a part of it. It's a part of our lives. How many of you have worked in outside the MedCom setting, outside the clinical setting? Okay. All right. Have you worked with chaplains in those environments? Okay. MedCom specifically, chaplains in MedCom have a kind of an additional set of skill sets or qualifications that make us a useful tool to the commander, i.e. to you, in taking care of soldiers and families. Okay? So I want to explain a little bit about what that is, and you just take a look at this video. This video does a good job. So what is a clinical chaplain? And by the way, as far as I know, there are 2 of us on this post. Who's the other one? Chaplain Ingram here at the hospital. Okay? All right? Who knew that? 1, 2, 3. Does it surprise you? Does that surprise you? Okay? All right, that's good. But now you know. Okay? Now here's the reason. Here's the reason I share that with you. This is not to blow sunshine up my fourth point. All right? That's not what this is about. What this is about is letting you know the skill sets that we're bringing to the fight. Okay? Because a lot of people don't know. And by the way, it does matter. This stuff does matter. Okay? You know, I didn't just start doing this the other day. And my training is not limited to coffee and candy. Okay? We bring a significant spiritual part to the conversation. All right? Give you an idea. When I did my master's, I went into seminary at a school where there were pharmacy students and others that, you know, doing their pharmacy degrees and such. Law students. We went in at the same time. 3 years later, I'm graduating with a Master of Divinity. You know what they're called? Doctor. Okay? You see what I'm getting at? 1,600 hours. I was a pastor for 12 years before coming into the Army. Okay? So I didn't wake up yesterday, just started counseling. All right? 2,000 hours of clinical experience. But that's what I'm in the middle of right now. Okay? The doctor of ministry, all that type of thing. Okay? So we are a resource for you. Right? We are an equal resource. All right? We're all right here for you. Bottom line is, you can trust us. You should trust us. Now I'm talking about from a skill set standpoint. It's on me to earn your trust as an individual, right? Just like it is with anybody that's on any kind of team. But from a certification and education standpoint, I just want you to make sure you know where we're coming from. Now, spirituality. How would you define spirituality? Anybody here want to take a shot at it? Yeah, it is like herding cats. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you something. If you're having a hard time, that's probably the right answer. Defining spirituality is, like I said up here, it's like trying to nail Jell-O to the wall, right? It's hard. It is very, very hard. What does that mean? You know, is it different for different people? Yeah, it is. That's fact of the matter. It is. It's very different for different people. But here's some things I can throw out there to kind of define it for you. Spirituality is an individual belief and expression. Again, it's as unique as our fingerprint. A lot of it has to do with our life experiences. It certainly has to do with your religious background. If you are a religious person, it has to do with things that you've been taught. It has to do with your life experiences. All right, all sorts of different things. So yes, it's a very complex issue. But in forming a spiritual identity, as chaplains, we basically look at 3 areas. Cognitive, experiential, and behavior. Here's what it boils down to. How does your spirituality affect the way that you think? That is one thing when I'm speaking with people and we're talking about spiritual health. One of the things I'm looking for is, okay, how does your spirituality affect the way that you think? How does it affect the way that you see things? The experiential part of it. How does your spirituality, your spirituality plays a role in how you perceive the world around you, your experiences. And then the behavioral. Anybody in here disagree that spirituality affects somebody's behavior? It does, absolutely. Absolutely it does. I mean, we listen, if you don't believe me, turn on CNN. Right? What is it, once a week now? Okay? You understand that those are most likely spiritual issues, right? That are driving mass murder. You got it? You see? There's nothing wrong with their heart physically. A lot of good family relationships. You know what I mean? We've seen that. I mean, how many times you see in these things in the news, well, I just never saw it coming. Right? These are solidly spiritual issues. And so if you don't think spirituality affects an individual's behavior, you got your head in the sand. It does. And it can affect it in very, very, very negative ways. Now, the flip side is true. It can be a very positive force as well, okay? But it does affect us in each of these areas. So what is spiritual care? This is where you all come in, because you all are the front lines when it comes to caring for the soldier, caring for their family, and an element of that is going to be spiritual care. So what does that look like? Well, number one, it's recognizing and responding to the multifaceted expressions of spirituality we encounter in our families and our patients. So in other words, it means being aware of it. And I'm going to help you. I'm going to give you a little tool to kind of help you be aware of those types of things. But the bottom line is it means acknowledging that, hey, when somebody comes to me, they've got a spiritual component to them. It may be solid, it may not be. It may be like yours, it may not be. But they're coming with that. All right? That's how they're coping. That's how they adapt. That's how they make sense. That's how they make sense of you. That's how they, in a lot of ways, their spirituality can even affect how they even perceive you. Right? I get that all the time. Do you think possibly that this sometimes will close doors for me? Yeah, daggone right. And you don't think I see it? I see it. All right? I see. Oh, there's the chaplain. You know, look, I got it. Especially of another faith, you think that absolutely, okay? It affects how we respond to it. If you've had bad experiences with religion, your spirituality has been altered in some way, you don't think that has an impact on how you perceive me as a quote-unquote, man of God or chaplain? It absolutely does, okay? Absolutely it does. So it affects all of us. It's part of us. Spiritual care also involves compassion, presence, listening, and encouragement of realistic hope. Now, if you went to the luncheon that we had, the Thanksgiving luncheon the other day, you heard me talk about hope, right? Folks, I'm going to tell you something. And I'm just going to throw it right out there. You know why people commit suicide? They have no hope. And last time I checked, there's not a drug in the world that's going to fix that. You understand what I'm saying? You can fix all the problems around you, or at least perceive to have fixed them, but it ain't going to change that sense of hope. Okay? That's the issue. That is the issue. Resiliency, master resiliency, all that type of stuff, at the bottom, at the end of the day, you know what it boils down to? Doing things that enable you to put that help you put one foot in front of the other. You know why you put one foot in front of the other? Because you have hope. See what I'm saying? All right? It may or may not involve any discussions about God. That's another part you need to understand. Just because somebody comes to a chaplain does not mean they're talking about God. In fact, I'd be willing to say that the majority of conversations I have as a chaplain with people are not about God. They're not. Either because they're not ready, either because it's really not part of something they want to talk about, or whatever the case may be. It's actually very few times that I have somebody come to me and want to talk about theology, all right, or moral injury, or pneumatology and those types of things, okay? A lot of times it's just talking about life. And a lot of times I don't have the answer, but I am a confidential ear, right? Which is therapeutic in of itself, is it not? Okay? And then, of course, spiritual care happens on many levels. It happens with each of us. What is spiritual distress? Because a lot of the folks that you're caring for, most folks in the WTU, really, in a medical facility of any kind, if you're coming in here and you're having some sort of procedure, or you're seeing a doctor, there's a good chance that you've got some level of distress, right? That's who we care for. That's why I've told y'all over and over again that this is, in my opinion, the most important job in the military, certainly, right? Caring for people where they are, all right? Caring for them, meeting them in their distress. You squad leaders, all of y'all, you're dealing with people in distress every day, and they will have an element of spiritual distress as well. So it occurs what happens is it occurs when individuals are unable to find sources of meaning, hope, love, peace, comfort, strength, and connection in life. When they've just lost that sense of understanding. When what their spirituality meant to them, when the way that their spirituality informed their life, when that goes awry, when that doesn't make sense anymore, that's when the spiritual distress kicks in. Also occurs when a conflict arises between individual beliefs and what's happening in their life. How many of you saw the movie American Sniper? You see it? Okay. One of the things that you're seeing come out now, and you're seeing more and more talk on it, is this concept of moral injury. Anybody heard of that? Moral injury. All right, I'm going to break it down for you, bottom line. Okay, as simple as I know how to put it. And this is actually oversimplifying it, but for our purposes, it's this. PTSD is a fear-based response. Moral injury is a guilt-based response. Bottom line. Okay? That's what it boils down to. if you watch the movie American Sniper, you've got this, stereotypical, it's not, I mean, it actually happened, but you hear this a lot, right? You've got the sniper, you've got the unit that they're protecting. You see the kid over here has a backpack on. Said kid walking towards said unit. That person, in a moment, has to make a decision, don't they? They don't know what the intent of that kid is. Let's say they shoot that kid. Let's say then when they do the search, there's books in that book bag. Tracking? Okay, that's just one example. All right. Now, that person in that instance is probably going to experience a form of moral injury. All right, on a number of different levels. Okay. In that case, it's because they committed an act that that goes against their own sense of morality. Now, it goes even farther than that, and I'll tell you what I see most in this area. Some people want to call it spiritual injury. I'm kind of hesitant to call it spiritual injury. I think it's more on the moral injury side. It's when people find themselves in situations in life that their theology or pneumatology did not prepare them for. Give an example. I grew up in a church as a Christian with a relatively clean picture of Jesus. Now, what do I mean by that? All right. What I mean by that is when Easter came around, the image I had of Jesus' suffering was a cross, and it had people would come and they put flowers on it. You see what I'm saying? It was clean. All right. What was the movie Mel Gibson made? Passion of the Christ. I'd never seen anything like that, much less ever heard of it. Okay. That never crossed my mind. That was not a part of my theology of suffering. Okay? That was the reality. Mary and Joseph, again, with the birth of Jesus. I mean, you sit at this time of year. Listen, the manger never stunk. You see what I'm saying? Everybody tracking what I'm saying? Jesus was born in a manger. It never stunk, never smelled bad. Okay? But of course it smelled bad. It was a manger. If you've ever grown up on a farm, in the best case, it still stinks, right? Okay? Point being is this. When I came into and I dealt with suffering people as a pastor, but I'd never seen anything like war, okay? So when I got my first glimpses of war and what war does to people and what it did to me as an individual on the inside and up here, okay, and in here, it didn't make sense. It didn't follow. I was suffering in a way that my theology never accounted for. I never in my wildest dreams would have thought that God, a loving and just God, would have allowed me to suffer in the ways that I did, and sometimes, transparency still do sometimes. Does that make sense to you? So what do you do with that? Do I just throw the baby out with the bathwater and say, well, there's no God? Well, sometimes that happens. All right? In my case, I was about that close. All right? But then, I took another track of trying to understand this and reading people like C.S. Lewis and other types of, theologians that could kind of help me, kind of piece together a proper understanding of theology and suffering and why does God allow, bad things to happen to good people and all these other types of things. Okay, I never addressed that. But bottom line is, I had an injury that was based solidly and squarely in a moral area. You see what I mean? All right? Okay, so spiritual distress. That's just another type of spiritual distress. All right, and that's what we have chaplains for. That's what we're here for, is to walk that lane. Okay, because that's what we've been trained to do. All right, spiritual care delivery. Just a quick little picture if you're a visual learner. This is the triangle. The bottom being awareness. That's point of today is for everybody to be aware. That's if you leave here aware, outstanding. Okay, if you leave here more aware than you were when you came in, outstanding. Here's the next part, screening and assessment. Now, a lot of times people think screening and assessment mean the same thing, don't they? Okay, I mean, you hear that a lot of times. Obviously, you all professionals, they're not the same thing. Screening. One of the best things that I can do for you, one of the best tools that I can give you, whether you're a squad leader or a platoon leader, a commander, a nurse case manager, a social worker, a doc, whatever the case is give you a way to screen for spiritual injury, for spiritual distress, for spiritual issues, right? Because obviously you want to help somebody in every facet of their life, right? All right? That's where you come in. Now, here's the thing. When I was in a conventional unit, you know where I did a lot of my ministry? In the field. Where else? I did some of the best ministry I've been part of on the hood of a Humvee. You know, you know what I'm saying? Okay, out in the field. Where else? Deployed. How about in garrison? Where is everybody on the Monday morning in garrison? Motor pool. PT. All right? We don't have a motor pool, folks. You see what I'm saying? All right? And if you really want me to go down the road of PT, I can, but let's leave it alone. Okay? All right? So bottom line is, we don't have those precise areas. So how is a chaplain, when everybody's off in a unit like this, where everybody's off doing their thing, they're at appointments, they've all got their individual care plans, all that type of thing, how do I know that that individual is suffering? Because there's one of me. How do I know? Through you. Does that make sense? No, sure, I can go around and visit the AO and kind of do the chaplain thing, hey, dude, what's up? Bam, bam, type of thing. Hey, buddy, how you doing? Pat him on the back, all that good stuff, okay? I can do all that. But all I'm doing is throwing darts in the dark. You see what I'm saying? Because a lot of times the people who are distressed the most, they're not even out there talking. They're certainly not sitting out in the lobby. You know what I'm saying? So me addressing this largely depends on you all. And it depends on your ability to see spiritual distress and call it for what it is and make the appropriate referrals. Now, if you've been in a triad, an Alpha Company triad, lately you've heard me harp on this, right? You know what I'm doing when y'all are going through those? And I'm sitting over there at the table, besides doodling, right? Taking names, right? Not your name. Well, not all the time. I'm taking names. What I'm doing is I'm going through that list and I'm saying, okay, based on what you are saying, I'm making notes. I put a little dot because that helps me focus on who I need to address. Does that make sense? So when you get that call from me that says, hey, I need to make an appointment, I'm not just trying to fill up my numbers for a sit rep at the end of the week, right? I am trying to address their spiritual matters, and I'm trying to be that tool for you. So right now, it's a forcing function coming from myself. The more efficient way to do it is for you all to be aware of it and be not only able to, but willing to make that referral, right? When you see that happening, okay? Be willing to do that, all right? So that's where the screening comes in. Then you got the assessment phase, which is obviously, hey, when I'm talking to them, what's going on? Really trying to figure it out, working that through with them. And then, of course, the intervention. And that's doing something about it there. I talked about everybody has a soul. Everybody is going through something. Everybody is dealing with something at some time that affects their life, right? Take a look at this video. All right. Bottom line is this. Every one of us it could be us in that video, right? With little blips following us around. Every one of these things have profoundly spiritual effects on the individual, do they not? Absolutely they do. Now, this was obviously a hospital, but the same thing, a lot of these are true with all the soldiers that we're taking care of, right? They're the same thing is true with each of you. It's true with me. I would have blips on my head, okay, of different things. All profoundly spiritual, among other things, okay? Among physical, among mental, among behavioral. You see what I mean? It affects all of those things. And that's why we all have to work as a team. You've got all four. Y'all have four covered. Let me bring the fifth, is what I'm getting at, okay? All right. Screening tools. Here's a couple things about the screening tools. Bottom line is this. I am working on a project that will basically, what I believe will improve AWICETs someday to include spiritual assessment, okay? So I'm just going to leave it at that, all right? That is another tool that will help me be a part of the system. There will also be notation, again, improving the whole spectrum and all. We can get into how that, works with confidentiality and all this other type of thing, but that's really not for today, okay? But bottom line is this. The only way that is going to happen is with screening tools. And through screening tools, I can say, hey, we can collect data on it and basically say, yeah, here's how this is making a difference. Because y'all know the people who have to spend the money to make the appropriate changes need numbers, don't they? Okay? They need to see results. Okay? And so that is a side part. That is my job. That's something I'm bringing to the fight. Okay? Not as much for you. It's not on your plate. It's on mine. All right. The other thing is, obviously utilize evidence-based methods for, building other tools. But here's the bottom line right here. It will improve patient-centered care. Your ability to recognize spiritual distress, spiritual symptoms, and refer them will improve the patient-centered care. Now, it's also on me to refer to you. Make sense? Because I have people come to me all the time, right? And it's on me. So here's just some things that I use. When I have somebody come to me, here's some questions that I ask, either directly or most of the time through conversation, to know that, hey, this might be something I need to refer to, someone in another specialty, to a social worker, to a psychologist, a psychiatrist, whatever the case may be, to you all, okay? All right, these are some questions that I ask. Are you currently getting counsel from other clergy? Have you had thoughts, experiences that were disturbing? You're experiencing significant distress. All of these types of things, okay, are things I ask. Now, there's a tool out there that I want you to be aware of. It's a spiritual screening tool. It's called HOPE. What it does is it utilizes open-ended questions for exploration. It minimizes barriers by not immediately saying, hey, you got a spiritual issue? You know what I mean? You got problems with God? That type of stuff, turn people off, okay? It doesn't really go there to start with. In fact, it doesn't go there at all. Then the majority of patients believe that spiritual health is as important as physical health. And you'll realize, they do. Most people believe that, hey, my spirituality being on track and being taken care of is as important as the physical. And here's what it stands for, okay? And I'm going to send you this in an email so you have this, okay? But what I want you to do is just think of hope, okay? Think of hope. This is the slide. When you're meeting with people, when you're talking with people, this is the door for referral right here. Okay, hope. Number one, sources of hope, meaning, comfort, strength, peace, love, and connection. You're saying, hey, what are those sources? What are those sources? If one of those is church, you see what I'm saying? If one of those is God, right? If one of those is, something in the spiritual realm, hey, okay, put a check mark there. Organized religion, that's an obvious one, right? There's your O. Hey, do you practice a religion? Yes, I do. Bam, okay? Need to see me. Let me talk to them, all right? Let me walk alongside of them. Those spiritual goals, right, in A-Wickets, all right? Those are things that are dynamic. And, at one point, I need to get back to church. Okay, well, if they've already gotten back to church, then, what next? But is church really the issue? Is that really what the goal is? Okay, or is there another issue beyond that? You see what I'm saying? Let me help you with that, okay? That's me. That's my lane, okay? Personal spirituality and practices, do they have some of that? And then this, does their spirituality does it affect their behavioral health or medical care, relationships, end-of-life issues? I'm going to give an example. When I was doing my internship at Fort Belvoir Community Hospital, that's where I was before I PCS'd here, okay? I was doing the clinical residency there. One of my wards was intensive care, ICU, right? We had this one patient that kept coming in all the time. He would not accept care. They'd have to discharge him. He'd get bad. He'd come back again. He'd drive the nurses and the doctors crazy. He would not accept this care, right? Why wouldn't he accept the care? Anybody have any idea? He had a Job complex. Now, some of you know what I'm talking about, and others may not. It's okay, all right? Suffering servant, all right? He, in his mind, his whole thing was the Scripture says, Christian Scripture says that the body is a temple of God. He takes that very literally, like no kidding. Don't touch it. So anything that was invasive is going, for him, in his spirituality and his theological precepts, means that they are invading God's space, right? Ain't going to happen. Why is it not going to happen? Because that means he's not trusting in God. Does that make sense? Whether you agree with that or not is irrelevant. I don't agree with it, okay? But that's irrelevant, okay? What's relevant is that it was affecting his care, right? It was driving the nurses nuts. It was driving the doctors crazy. So much so I came around the corner. You should have heard the doctors. They were cussing him. Seriously. So, they were. Not to his face, but, around the corner. All right? So I was having to work with them and say, but bottom line is that spiritual component of him, nobody in that group was trained to understand that. It was my job to see that in him and help. So, but he needed the physical care, doesn't he? He needs these things. So then I come into the picture and help bridge that gap. He ended up getting the physical care he needed, okay? Because I was able to help him work through the theology of it. Make sense? You ever had anybody refuses to take medicine? And you better believe there's probably some spirituality behind some of that. Okay? So that's where, among many things, that's where we come into the picture. So hope, okay? And I'll send you this, all right? But, if there's any of these things, that's what we're here for. This is a way for you just to take a snapshot and say, yeah, I'm going to point them in that direction. All right. Any questions? Comments, concerns? Listen, I know some of you stayed up too late last night because I can see it because you've been falling asleep on me, but that's cool. All right. Let's see. All right, got a question for you. I have a couple of gifts. All right. By the way, any questions? Thoughts, comments, anything? Now's your chance. Anything. I'm good with anything. Okay. If I don't know it, I'll tell you I don't know it. Any questions? None? Hey, I must have done a good job. Either that or y'all ready to go. Okay. Here's the thing. When was the Chaplain Corps founded? Anybody know? Anybody know? When is it? 1890. What else? Any other guesses? When Jesus was born. 1775. The United States Army Chaplain Corps is older than our nation. All right. It was founded by George Washington. You get it?
No, I was a year off.
You're off. All right. Well, I'm going to give this to you anyway. Okay. You were close. All right. There you go. All right. 5 Love Languages book. If you've not read 5 Love Languages of any shape or form for like children, marriages, in military, whatever, awesome stuff. If you've not gone to a Strong Bonds or you're going to the next one that we have, we're doing the 5 Love Languages. Great stuff, okay? Great stuff. All right, one more question. Which Army regulation governs Chaplain Corps activities? I was looking right at you, so there you go. Okay, this guy here, and I'm not saying I have no idea what your marriage is like. Okay, I have no idea. I'm just giving you the book. Okay, if your marriage is great, pass it along to somebody else. If it's not, pass it along, whatever. Okay, that guy Mark Gunger is awesome. It's one of the Strong Bonds materials that we use. Guy's hilarious. He really does a good job with that. All right. Listen, I appreciate y'all being here for real. Please help me help you. We will have more conversations and such. All right. Probably after Christmas. But please know, I want to be part of the team. All right. I think I bring the resources to be part of the team. All right. So let me help you, do the commander's mission. Okay. All right. Hey, I appreciate each and every one of you, everything that you all do. Have a wonderful weekend, sir. Is there anything Sergeant Major? No? Okay. Y'all take care. I appreciate you.